Hey everyone, I'm Andrew Lucio and this is Kyle Waple. And today we're going to be recapping everything that we have learned from the callings and we've learned about the game. And we're going to be talking about some things that might be a little controversial. So let's just get into it right now. All right, let's talk about Dallas.
Dallas.
Dallas, Fort Worth, the calling, right in our backyard. Matt Rogers coming down from New Zealand or coming up, whichever way you want to throw it down there.
Whichever direction.
And he gets scooped up.
I mean, he did all right.
America.
Okay.
There's a lot of good players out there. We hear about them a little bit, maybe a little bit too much. But there's a reason we hear about them because they're doing things. They're building their communities. They're maintaining, large Facebook groups and all kinds of stuff. You can say whatever you want to say about Matt Rogers, but at the end of the day, he was actually trying to build the game. And he was putting in a lot of time, energy, and effort into maintaining good relationships with the players that were across the seas in different countries and also expanding the brand of LSS. So if he ends up working for LSS at some point in the future, or if he doesn't already work for them, it wouldn't surprise me. Well deserved.
And he'd win.
But at the end of the day, if he sits across from me in Classic Constructed, I'll scoop him up. I'll scoop him right up.
That's how we got to do it.
Exactly. All right, so Dallas, Fort Worth. Matt Rogers was there, Rob Seigel, all the guys you want to hear about, Brendan Patrick. But you know who was there? This team right here. And they all did really well. Everybody did really good. We got people into the tops. Our boy got first place in the Pro Quest. Not Wyatt, but Jack McCaffrey. Look, they're both the McCaffrey brothers. They look the same to me.
Like Wyatt
I don't
got
know.
second at the other one.
I know he did, but nobody
talks
said
about
anything.
that.
Nobody says anything about that. But Jack got first place, and that was a big accomplishment. In your mind, how do you think Jack was feeling after that whole thing? Like literally.
Gosh, it was probably insane. He probably just felt like he's in a whole nother world. I mean, getting the top 8 is already super cool. And then even getting into each step of the bracket, going up to even the finals, that when you finally get it, oh gosh.
Feels pretty good. And it's kind of cool, Jack's story, because Jack came in with his brother Wyatt. We saw Wyatt first, then Jack came in. And the first time we ever actually meet Jack, he goes, "Hey, Cold Foil Library. Feels kind of nice." We did a sealed event, remember?
Yep.
That was our first experience with Jack. And to go from that point of just literally, I think he sold it for like $4,000, or does he still have it? No, I think he sold it. I'm pretty sure he sold it.
I'm not sure.
I think 100%, but not Cold Foil. It's rainbow. It has to be. Anyways, the point is, I think he sold it. But he made out
a second one.
I think he made out like a
He
bandit.
might have got a second.
He might have got a second one. But the point is, that's how he started with us here at the shop, flesh and blood, just like as lucky as you can possibly get, right then and there. And then from there, he put the time, energy, and effort in, grinded out the hours with his brother. They're making content.
Yep.
I've seen it.
It's a little long.
But the point is, they're doing things, and I love it. I love how the community's been growing, and that's really what we saw at Dallas. We saw a lot of people that we don't even normally see here in the shop, but that live within driving distance, and they never come out here. But you know what? They were there for the calling, and why? Because it was limited format. Because it was sealed. I know. But I think that speaks volumes, right? Because these individuals that we don't see on a consistent basis came out to the calling because the point of entry, the barrier of entry, was very, very low. All they had to do was pay, and then they could play.
Yep.
And that's kind of the idea, right? I can't take that away from LSS. I get it, and I understand, and I've taken note of it, and I'm pretty sure every other player has taken note of it, that when you have these types of limited formats, that's the huge takeaway from hosting those types of events, is that people who don't normally play the game, the barrier of entry is so low, and they can just come and play. And they're going to get the cards there, and they can even learn to play while they're there, because people will teach them.
There were people that were like, "This is my first week playing," and I'm like, "Oh, okay."
That's kind of nice. I mean, look, if you get some really good pulls, it can carry a low skill. And if you have a lot of skill from another card game, those skills sometimes translate over, right?
To an extent, yeah.
To an extent. Okay, so now we wrap up Dallas. It was good for the team, and we had good showings as well.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, we move into Cincinnati, and Cincinnati's just a whole different experience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we got there, I think day one, we still had over 500 players.
Yep.
For sealed, which is nice. That sends the biggest message I think you can send as an up-and-coming trading card game, to have that level of consistency. We come from Dragon Ball Super, and we come from a lot of other games, and I can tell you right now, I think we hit 500 one time.
That was our biggest event, like in California.
Oh, wait a second. Sorry. Yeah, one time with a regional, and then we had our nationals events, which was also 500. 400. Oh, God, what even 500 players? And that was the big to-do. That was the big one. And they even did last-minute qualifiers. Remember that? That's how I got into nationals, was on a last-minute qualifier. So, I don't know. I think as far as building the brand, building the game, LSS is definitely off to the right start. Limited format, while it may not be as popular for us as CC is, it does allow us to grow the game at an exponential rate, because at the barrier of entry is so low, people don't have to come in and buy from 5 or 6 different sets. They don't have to spend $600-700 to put a deck together. They can just come in, pay their $40-50, get right into the mix, learn how to play the game, be a part of the community, be a part of the experience. And I think at the end of the day, that is something that's very, very good. And it's something that we're going to carry with us into our downtime after nationals this year, right?
Yeah.
But with all that being said, while we want to see the silver lining all the time, there's a couple of things that happened that we definitely need to talk about now. And I want to remind everybody that we always reach out to LSS before we say anything as far as how we personally feel about certain things that are in the game. The response that we got from LSS wasn't exactly what I would have wanted.
Nope.
Didn't feel too good. But let's go ahead and break it down. The biggest pervasive thing in the game right now is tiebreakers.
Yep.
And whenever you go to an event, whether you were in Vegas or Dallas or Cincinnati, the conversation is always, make sure you don't lose in the first 3 rounds. Make sure you don't lose in the first 3 rounds. And it's like, okay, what does that actually mean? Nobody's really taking the time to go in and kind of do a deep dive research on how tiebreakers are scored. But when it comes down to it, the way that tiebreakers are scored from top to bottom, the weight of your score is impacted by when you lose. So for people that may not understand what I'm saying, let me explain it in the best way possible. Single elimination tournaments operate on the idea that one person will progress while the other person is completely cut out of the event. And effectively, what has happened with the way that they are doing their tiebreakers is we've positioned ourselves via single elimination, because if you lose in round 3, your tiebreaker is weighed down compared to those who lose in round 4, those who lose in round 5, and those who lose in round 6 or 7 or however it goes up. The point is that the most recent round, that person's tiebreaker is going to always be better than yours, as long as they lost in a round that was above yours. And it doesn't mean anything else other than that. It literally, so for example, if I lost in round 3, which I did, to a player who's undefeated, which they were,
and continued to be,
and continued to win, which I did, and I end 5 wins, 1 loss in a pool of 150 players after only playing 6 rounds when it should have been 7 per LSS official guidelines, regulations. Should have been 7 rounds, but it was 6. When you look at my tiebreakers of the other X1s, because they lost in later rounds, even to people that went X1 or X2, i.e. the strength of their opponent that beat them was weaker than my opponents. Because I lost in round 3 and they lost in 4, 5, or 6. Their tiebreakers were better, weighed stronger. And that's the situation we found ourselves in. I'm going to tell you right now, I walked up to the front expecting to be in top 8. My only loss was to someone who was undefeated. And to say anything else about my opponents not being good is disrespectful to them. I guarantee you they weren't there to lose. They were not playing to lose. And from round 4, 5, and 6, I'm playing good opponents as I progressively win. These are guys that were either undefeated at X1 and they're X1ing all the way up themselves. So the argument becomes, was the event ran the way it was supposed to be? The answer is obviously no, because of the fact that they should have done 7 rounds per the guidelines, and we only did 6. But then it really goes back down to how those tiebreakers are calculated. And I don't care who you are, nobody wants to play in an organized system that is single elimination consistently. I'm not paying $100 to fly out, another $300 for 3 days in a hotel, so $400 so far, and then another $100 for an event package, $500, to go round 1, lose, and now I'm out completely. But that's where we're at. And I don't want to be that person, but I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it as plainly as I can. When you go to the section that lays out specifically how the tiebreakers are calculated, you got to go through a lot of text before you get to the point where it literally just says, if you lose lower in a lower round, i.e. second round, third round, than somebody else, their tiebreaker is better. You got to go quite a bit of ways. And the response from LSS was not a response that laid that out for me. Just so we're clear, comma, this is how the tiebreaker works, comma. So while it's unfortunate that you lost in this round and did not make top 8, comma, whatever the case may be, this is how it is. You know, this is something we're not hiding. This is not something that we are, and it almost feels this way, being deliberately, what's the word I'm looking for here? Deliberately secretive about. Because it feels, in some sense, that they decided to create a single elimination formula that wasn't obvious. So it gives people the illusion that they have the potential to make it back up and actually top. Because at the end of the day, you're not, what's the word I'm looking for? You're not going to, in a field of 600 players, you're not going to have a better X1 tiebreaker than anyone as soon as you lose that round 1. You can lose round 1 and go all the way out to X1. I can't read that. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. The point is, you're not going to lose round 1 and then move all the way up with all the other X1s who are going to lose in 4, 5, 6, or 7. And that's it. You're done. You're done for the whole day. And how does that feel to go completely undefeated? To go 6-1 and know that no matter what, you're not making it into top 8 because the other X1s in that 600-person event, if they didn't lose in round 1, then their tiebreakers are just better. And that's heartbreaking. I don't know. Tell me how you feel about that.
No, I mean, if you go X1 at any major event, you should make it. Like, I don't feel like there's any time where going X1 in a Swiss round means you don't make top cut. In this tournament, we hit the threshold to go to a 7th round, and we should have played a 7th round at the bare minimum. Other than that, every X1 should have made it through.
I like what they did. They made a change to how limited works. And they said, we're either going to, A, take the top 64, or B, we're going to take every X2 that makes it. That, to me, was completely revolutionary. I've never played in any card game that just said, hey, X2s make it. That's it. Don't worry about anything. I haven't played in those games and heard that from it. I just haven't, you know. And if there's other games out there, good for them. But to me, that felt great. It felt great to not have to worry about my OMW. It felt great to not have to worry about getting bubbled out or anything like that. It felt so good to be able to play and just know that if I X2, I get in, and that's it. I like how we're doing nationals. 4 wins gets you to day 2.
I don't know how valuable
it doesn't
that
even
is.
matter. But the point is knowing it. But knowing it, though, helps, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you don't have to worry about losing in round 1. You just got to get your 4 wins. Get your 4 wins. You're going to make day 2. And what does that mean? If the system is the way that it's built now, It means absolutely nothing. It just means you get to play in day two.
Yeah.
You're not going to make top 8. You're not going to get up there and be in the finals. You're not going to win nationals. What does that mean?
If you go 4-4 day one, you have 4 losses in your opening 8, which means your closing 8. Even if you go 8-0, doesn't matter. I don't know. I'd have to really sit down and do the numbers, but
because like if the argument is that 4 wins gets you into day 2 and then day 2 is completely fresh, then that feels kind of nice, right?
Yeah, that's different. If they do it that way, but we don't.
But that's the way we should be doing these kinds of things. All right, so like at the end of the day, what exactly are we asking from all of these professional level events? We're asking for the opportunity to win. That's what we're asking for. Mm-hmm. And the strength of our opponents should be the deciding factor. So for example, if in 7-8 rounds, I beat 5 people that go X2, and I lose to 3 people who go undefeated. Maybe 2 of these guys played down when I was X1 or X2. I don't know how that would be possible. Like, let's say 2 undefeateds and let's say 1 X1. So 2 undefeateds, 1 X1, and 5 people I beat were they ended X2. Then when we look at my 5-3 record and we go, okay, here are all the other people that are 5-3, then all of those percentages should add up, average out across the board, and give me a solid OMW that we can weigh against the other people that went 5-3. And if based on that math, because my strength of schedule, not when I lost, not what round I lost, the people that I actually played and how good they did and how good they were at this event, the strength of that schedule, if that all adds up and averages out and gives me a score, and that score is lower than Kyle here because he beat 6, sorry, not 6, it has to be 5-3, right? So he beat 5 people, and of the 5 people he beat, 4 of them went X1 and 1 went X2, you know, and then like all this kinds of stuff like that, right? So it's like when you look at that kind of thing, then that makes sense to me. But if Kyle's X3 and I'm X3, and we beat the exact same people who were exactly the same skilled and everything else, but he lost in round 3 and I lost in round 4, and I get the edge simply because he lost a round earlier, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. And then you ask yourself, well, then how do we figure that out? Well, maybe we don't need to figure that out. Maybe we need to stop the whole cut to top 64, top 18, top this, that, and the other, and maybe we just need to put a number on it like we've been doing. Here's how it's going to work. You're going to play 8 rounds of Swiss, and everyone who's X2, that's going to be the cut. And then we're going to play again until there's, you know, this many XOs or whatever, or X1s. And then that's going to be the cut. You see what I'm saying? Like, we need to figure out a new way to do it where OMW doesn't even really play a part into it. So that you can actually just win. You can actually just try to win and actually have a shot at winning whenever you happen to fail. I can't think of any other thing that would work better than that. And that's just me shooting off the top of my head. What do you think?
I really like the idea of just, you know, I liked the X2 make it. I mean, I think even OMW can work. I think OMW is better than like, hey, if I have a bad draw in round 2 or round 3, I'm just basically out of the tournament. It's like I can lose one and make it as long as they play enough rounds, but that's just insane to go 5-1 and not top cut.
As a person who has been in a lot of trading card games, the story of someone going completely undefeated all the way from the beginning, first round, all the way to the very end feels good, right?
Sure.
Okay. Then you got another story where a person loses their first 2 rounds. Then they make it into top 32. And then they go undefeated into top 8. And then they go right there to the end, and they lose it against a person who's just really, really good. They lose it. But the point is that story is equally as good. Because it leaves you at the edge of your seat the entire time that they've been playing, that they had a chance, that the first 2 rounds didn't go that way for them. Like for whatever reason, bad draws, bricking, whatever the case may be. You know, there's no mulligan in this game. We sideboard, we go in, we draw our 4, and we go. There's no mulligan. All right? The best kind of mulligan we have is if we go second, then obviously we can throw our hand away and try to cycle it out, right? Or if you're playing Shock Charmer, you can be like, oh, yeah, let's go. Shock Charmers, recycle my hand. But the point I'm trying to make here is that sometimes it just breaks bad. And the story of an individual being able to work their way up and actually get back into the mix and make it all the way back in. Those are good stories. And that's good for a community and growing a community. But what am I supposed to tell my team? What do you tell the people that are playing this game when literally if they lose in round 1 or 2, they're done?
Feels bad.
It feels bad. And then like,
terrible.
okay, so here's the question then. Here's the question. You tell me, you pretend you're LSS for a second, all right? And I want you to actually try to defend it, okay? I'm going to ask you a question. You pretend you're LSS. Try to defend it, okay?
God.
All right, here we go. Hey, LSS, now that I've lost round 1, should myself and the other 299 people who lost round 1 just go ahead and give up and walk away? Because we can't make it. Not a single one of us can make it. It's a top 8.
Well, you should definitely play out the tournament because we need our tournament to, fire off.
Is there anything for me participating in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rounds or 5th rounds?
You got a mat at the beginning.
Oh, but so I could.
Yeah.
I already have it. Then I could just go and.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. That's the conversation we're having, and you're thinking to yourself like, okay, well, if 300 people disappear from round 1, then the other 300 can keep playing it out. Okay, we'll just do the math on it, right? I mean, it goes 300 people who are undefeated, then it goes 150, then it goes 75, then it goes like 34, and then it goes from 34 to 17, and then it goes from 17 to freaking 9. Let's say 9, and then it goes from 9 to 5, and these are the undefeateds, and then it goes from 5 to 3. Okay, so let's say at 8 rounds, we have 3 undefeated, and then we have all these X1s, and all those X1s. Look, we went from 3 to from when? From where were we at? Like 5,
Sure.
right? So there's 2 X1s right there. They're definitely making it. So that's 5 of the top 8 right there. And you're not making it. It's just not happening for you. Because you lost in round 1, and the tiebreakers say you don't make it. Even if you win all the way out, you don't make it. Because we went from 15 down to 9, or 7. No, we went from 17 to 9. Okay? Those 9 people, when we went from 9, there was 4 people there that could end X1. And those 4 people plus the 2 people, that's 6, plus the 3 undefeated, there's 9 people now that are going to be jockeying for top 8. And that's it. That's the 9. You're never going to make it. So what's the point of you keep playing? I mean, like, literally, that's the way. I mean, like, you tell me, LSS, tell me, why should I keep playing?
You love the game. Great game. We love it.
It's heartbreaking. Am I mad that I didn't make it into top 8? I'm a little upset that we didn't get 7 rounds. I think at the bare minimum, I would have liked to have played 1 more round. For sure. To try. And potentially still get pushed out. It'd be like that. Did it hurt? You know what hurt me the most? When I went over, it was the look in the eyes of the people that told me I didn't make it. Because they expected me to make it. And when I didn't, they felt bad. And because they felt bad, I felt bad. And then I started thinking, and I couldn't stop thinking about all the other players that this has happened to. And how they may not have known that this happened to them. And they're just asking themselves, why did this happen? I don't understand. I don't get it. And they didn't go to LSS's website and look up how the tiebreakers are done. They just couldn't figure it out. And they didn't go further because would knowing actually make you feel better about it? Well, guess what? I know about it. And you know about it.
It still feels bad.
And it still feels bad. So, experiences from the callings. Channel Fireball did the best they could in the first year. I'm, you know what? I'm going to that's my official statement on it. They did the best they could. They could have done better, obviously, but they did the best they could at the time. So, I mean, at the end of the day, for me, personally, and I've hosted many events with hundreds of players, hundreds. And I've worked for other companies that do event hosting too. And so, for me, at the end of the day, there are just certain things that you do and you don't let happen. And that was one of their failings, and that failing was basically on the judging. And then from the judging onto how the event actually ran, this is trial and error.
Yeah.
You know, so you can't give them any negative points for the way that the event ran, because they're really just figuring it out, like how best to streamline and make it go. You know, putting up paper pairings. That's one of the biggest things too. Like we're killing trees by the thousands putting up these paper pairings when literally LSS has this system. It's right there on your phone, ladies and gentlemen. It's right there. It tells you what table to go to. You can report your losses. You can even drop from the tournament. And it's so beautiful. It's completely digital, and LSS has made this wonderful thing for us. And are we utilizing it? Yes and no. And they're still putting up paper pairings. I don't like it.
Better a sheet than all the match slips. It's a lot less paper.
The match slips don't need to be done. They don't need to be done. Signing your name to anything doesn't matter. Because literally, I could just go mark it as a win, scribble something in, and then you could be like, oh, well, you know what? That's not my signature. Yeah, and it's like, oh, I saw you sign it. Oh, okay, well, now it's your word against mine. You know, oh, well, what are we going to do? Provide 3 forms so we can prove that that is your signature? Is that what we're going to do at a tournament? We're going to say, oh, God, well, you know, hey, everybody, let's stop for 15 minutes so we can analyze this person's handwriting to prove whether or not they won. That's not going to happen. So, like, we don't even need the match lists. The match lists are completely superfluous. We need to move away from all these old things. It's 2021. As a person who's participating in tournaments right now in 2021, what is your minimum expectation? Because it is the future, and we're here now, and it's 2021. We have all of this digital hardware, and we can literally do all these things digitally. What is your expectation? And compare it to what we actually have right now.
I mean, I feel like it's just be this system that LSS has put out. It's literally just this. I pull my phone out, it tells me where to go. I hit the win button, and I put it, and then I put my phone away, and that's all I need to do. Every game should have that. And then, like, that should be it. That's all that we need. If both players are entering and if there's ever a conflict, then you have to go deal with it. But, I mean, that's any match slip, right? If there's ever an issue, if the opponent takes the slip and marks it wrong, there's an issue, right?
Yep.
So if 2 people have a phone and you mark it, that's it. That should be it.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing more should be needed to be done.
Yeah. So the expectation, because Kyle didn't spell it out specifically, is that we shouldn't be doing anything with paper.
No, we don't need paper.
Nothing with paper. And then the standings as well. If you haven't heard of this company, they're called West Coast Pairings. They decided to get into this market because they saw a need. And the need was everything digital. So even standings are digital. And they're consistent and they're just there. So as soon as a round is reported, the standings are there. So you can actually see the standings in the current round. And then when the tournament is over, if you have their premium service, which is super cheap, I think it's like $2. If you have their premium service, you can go back and look at every tournament you've ever competed in and see the standings for that event. Now, that's similar to what you can do with LSS with one caveat, because LSS, when you go look at a past tournament, you can't see the standings.
Yeah.
So let's add that quality of life feature in there. You know, let's get that going, right?
Nice.
Look, I mean, if Channel Fireball's the big partner now, cough up some money and get that added. You know, give it to LSS, tell them whoever made your program, tell them to add this quality of life feature, give that to us, and then guess what? We don't have to print anything anymore. No more printers. We don't have to do any of this stuff. No more killing trees. Everything's digital. It's beautiful. That's what we should be. It's 2021. Get with the program. We need it. I don't know. But anyways, so there's that. Like you can't fault them for that. They're trying to figure it out. They're trying to get all the things going. I mean, like, other than the judging, which, I mean, like, at the same time, you could say, how many judges exist? Did LSS make the program accessible? Did they work with them? Did they say, hey, here's some training materials. You could take anyone who's not a judge, train them up. Now they're a level 1 judge. Here's a tournament pop quiz, and then here's a master test. Did they do any of that? I don't know what LSS did. I don't know what they provided, right? So, like, we can't just put it all on Channel Fireball and be like, hey, you guys are garbage, whatever the case may be, because we don't know. We have no idea. It's all pure speculation that they didn't put enough time, energy, and effort into it. They could have sent 18 emails to LSS, and nobody ever wanted to work with them on it. Or maybe LSS said to them, hey, it's not that big of a deal. Don't worry. Just put anybody out there and just hope that people know how to play the game. I don't know. But the point is, we ran into a lot of bad judging, and it sucked. And that's something that we definitely can fix between now and then, obviously. And as far as everything else goes, I mean, like, is there any big takeaway from the callings that you're just like, this is something we definitely need to improve upon for next year's calling season?
Honestly, just the judges. I just need the judging to be a lot more streamlined and just people know what's going on. The tournaments were fine, We hiccuped probably a little bit for the Tales of Aria thing, but ever since then, I felt like every tournament we were pretty good to getting down to our seats and just playing every round. Outside of that, I mean, yeah, everything was pretty solid.
Do you think the break should stay at round 4, or they should move it between final Swiss and when they do the top 8?
I forgot about the break.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I feel like I would prefer the break to be more like when you cut, but also if I played 8 rounds of CC, it might be different than playing 8 rounds of draft or sealed, because sealed are 30-minute rounds. Or like you could pump out the 6 to 8 rounds like within a reasonable amount of time. Whereas when you're playing CC and you're sitting down for 50 minutes and then time gets called and we wait 5 minutes and we wait 10 minutes for them to get a round started, we're talking an hour every round.
Yep.
But in the idea of sealed, it's, hey, we're sitting down for 30 minutes and then maybe 5 minutes and then we sit down for another 30 minutes. Why are we breaking at round 4? We should be breaking at round 8.
When it goes to cut.
But if you're doing CC, round 4 makes more sense.
So I don't disagree with that. If we're doing Classic Constructed, having a round 4 break was kind of nice, just because of the length of the games. But if we're doing sealed and they're shorter rounds, I would prefer that you just let us get our Swiss out of the way, and then between cut, that's when we get the break. That makes the most sense to me. But that's the big takeaway from that. You guys are going to watch this video right after Nationals. And I don't know what else to say as far as the situation with LSS is concerned. I love the game. And I am not going anywhere. And I am going to do a lot for the community because that's my plan. But at the end of the day, there has to be a reckoning with this tiebreaker system. There just has to be. I don't like single elimination, and I wouldn't participate in it if it was an obvious single elimination. But effectively, that's what it is. And it's disrespectful to other players to say that because you lost round 1, you're a weaker player. I mean, literally, when you're playing a good player, regardless of how good you are, if they draw the nuts, they draw the nuts. There's just nothing you can do about that. And I've sat across many a good player in the vein of that existence where I'm good and they're good, and then they draw better than I do. And that's the determining factor. There's just nothing you can do. You sit down in front of a Bravo player, and they go crippling crush, spinal, and then tear asunder, and everything had dominate. There's just nothing you can do against that. Armor is only going to carry you so far. Then, you know, then what's your argument? I should play decks that have better armor? You get what I'm saying?
No.
I don't have anything else to say. You got anything else to say?
I'm Gucci.
All right, guys. Let us know. Let LSS know. Put it in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And definitely subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, because we're going to talk a little bit more about this kind of thing. And hopefully I get a response from LSS. I've been waiting 4 days now. So if anybody from LSS watches this, I would love a response to to what I asked, to get a little more clarification on it. But I love the game. I want you guys to continue to support the game, grow the game, because we're going to do that. And that's about it. Peace.